Originally hitting our TV screens back on the BBC during its 2015 debut, The Last Kingdom became a quick hit amongst fans of grounded historical drama, providing an engaging and gripping blend of fact and fiction that had fans raving. The show was eventually picked up by Netflix and continued to pump out action-packed seasons until finally coming to an end just recently, when all of the climactic Season 5 dropped on the 9th of March this year. In today's video, we'll be explaining the end of the series, as well as what's next for The Last Kingdom. First up, The Last Kingdom's ending. With The Last Kingdom being set in the 800s at the time of the Great Heathen Army's arrival in England, the show has been full of plenty of drama, combining bloody action with gripping drama to produce a story that you just can't take your eyes off of, and this principle has extended right from the very first episode all the way through the series finale that fans were treated to earlier this month. The finale episode was packed full of the same excellent storytelling that many of us have grown accustomed to from following this show for the last 7 years, but it also surprised fans in a few ways with the manner in which certain stories were left with loose ends yet to be tied. So what exactly happened in The Last Kingdom's series finale? Well, the villainous Lord Aethelhelm abducted Wessexian princess Elfwin, intending to force her to marry King Constantine of Scotland in return for Scottish support of his own ambitions. Aethelhelm has been holed up in Bebbanburg, the ancestral homeland of Uhtred, before it was stolen by his uncle and passed down to the stewardship of Uhtred's rather awful cousin, Witger. King Edward of Wessex, growing understandably angry at the situation, sends Uhtred and the band of his fellow warriors on a mission to infiltrate Bebbanburg and rescue his daughter. Like a weird Viking version of the Suicide Squad, things go awry and Uhtred's group is discovered, leading to Hastan sacrificing himself to give the others time to escape. Whilst this is going on, King Edward grows sick of waiting and ultimately, against the advice of his advisors, marches an army to Bebbanburg. His Saxon forces struggle immensely in the fight against the combined might of King Constantine and Lord Aethelhelm's armies, though after a bloody battle, they manage to achieve victory thanks to a timely attack from Uhtred's men, which turns the tides completely. Uhtred himself manages to finally kill Witger and reclaim his home. Whilst Elfwin is rescued and Aethelhelm's part is the death of Queen Elfled is exposed, he takes his own life to escape the shame. In the end, an uneasy truce is broken between King Constantine and Uhtred upon the conditions that King Edward will not be allowed to annex Northumbria, the crucial buffer kingdom between the lands of Scotland and the lands of Saxon control. Edward is furious at this, determined to realize his father's vision of a united England. But Uhtred makes the point that he isn't a trustworthy enough figure to truly unite the region. It will happen, he promises, but it will be of Edward's children that finally accomplishes it. So, what's next? You may have noticed whilst I was giving the summary of the season finale, but there seems to still be a few loose ends left over at the end of the show. For starters, though the season 5 climax saw peace negotiated between the two warring sides of King Edward and King Constantine, there seems to be very little indication that the fighting is completely done for. I mean, King Constantine tried to go along with forcibly marrying King Edward's daughter. There's no way that Edward is going to just forget about that and accept peace, especially when the terms of peace include a clause that will stop him from achieving his grand ambition of forming a united kingdom of England. Given all of this, it's hard to imagine that the terms of this tenuous peace will remain unbroken. And naturally, if there's potential for future conflict, it's something we're going to want to see. It's fortunate then that it has already been confirmed that while The Last Kingdom's run as a TV series is now over, it won't be the last time we get to see Uhtred and company. Netflix have already confirmed that they're working on a full-length movie project to act as a final farewell to the series. The project being titled 7 Kings Must Die. There's a precedent for this sort of thing, of course, with the most popular example by far being the El Camino movie that acted as a spin-off of sorts to Breaking Bad, though it is expected that 7 Kings will be a touch more connected to its predecessor. The suggestion is very much that the movie will pick up where the show leaves off with the same cast of characters and something supporting this notion discussion further is the return of Uhtred's son, Ostbert. Ostbert made his return in the final episode of Season 5, after having been absent, a decision which confused some fans as he appears quite frequently in the Bernard Cornwell books that Season 5 is based on. This is apparently a decision made to cut down on the number of characters that fans had to familiarize themselves with, but with his grand return, it certainly provides an implication of a potential plotline for the movie. It would be very strange for the showrunners to hold off on Ostbert's appearance, finally bring him in for the finale, and then have him play a bit part throughout Seven Kings. So we'd expect him to be a key player in the film's story. Given Uhtred's relationship with his other sons, it's also quite unlikely that this will be a happy family reunion. Moving on, Seven Kings cast news. Unfortunately, we can't be completely certain of who will be in The Seven Kings Must Die, as very little has arrived in the form of official confirmation of cast members. Obviously, the filmmakers will realize that it's incredibly important for the majority of the key characters to return, as without those links to the Last Kingdom show, there would be very little point in creating a spin-off movie. At that point, they might as well make something totally new. We do know for a fact that Alexander Draymond will be reprising his role as central character Uhtred, while Arnis Fedaravicius will be back in the boots of Sihtric, one of Uhtred's long-term allies and a very familiar face to Last Kingdom fans. The pair were confirmed in a video that released around the announcement of the movie's production, but those two aside, everyone else is merely up to our own speculation, though we can make some pretty confident, educated guesses based on where we left off with the TV show. As mentioned, Ostbert made a big return at the end of Season 5, so it would be absolute lunacy if we don't see Matt DeVere reprise his role as Uhtred's son. Given the tension that still exists between the kings of Scotland and Wessex, we'd expect to see Constantine, played by Rob Hallett, and King Edward, played by Timothy Innes, both make their return for Seven Kings. And since they're kings, who knows if one or both of them is one of the Seven Kings who must die. With Edward likely to be back, it'd also be something for a surprise if we don't see the rest of the Wessex royal family. So the likes of Harry Gilby's Aethelstan and Fia Saban's Aelfwin can be expected to show up too. There's of course a lot of people that we can be certain of not appearing, as Season 5 alone saw a ton of characters die, such as Witgar, Lord Ethelhelm, Haston, Aethelfled of Mercia, and Breda. Unless we get some flashbacks or ghostly appearances, it's unlikely that any of these people appear in the Seven Kings movie. Finally, what else do we know? The filmmakers behind Seven Kings have been relatively tight-lipped about the entire movie, keeping most of the details surrounding the film a secret so as to avoid any potential spoilers. Though there is some information we are privy to with regards to the film's production, firstly, it's highly likely that as most of The Last Kingdom was based upon Bernard Cornwell's Saxon Stories novels, Seven Kings will likely be based upon the final 3 books in Cornwell's series. That doesn't mean we're going to see every event in the film coming, of course, as the Last Kingdom showrunners have shown a clear willingness to deviate from Cornwell's work every now and again, though they often try to retain the general spirit and direction of the source material. In terms of a release date, we're yet to hear anything from the filmmakers, but one very encouraging development is the recent news that filming has officially wrapped for the movie, meaning that it has hardly entered its post-production phase. This is honestly rather surprising given that it only started filming in January, with its 2-month turnaround being exceedingly quick for a film shoot. That said, many of those working on the crew for the movie are those who spent plenty of time working on the TV show, with producers and director and a writer all crossing over from The Last Kingdom to partake in the creation of The Seven Kings. With so much crossover, it would appear that the shooting of Seven Kings went incredibly smoothly, and though as we mentioned there is no confirmed release date, we wouldn't be surprised if Netflix gets the movie out as soon as possible to capitalize on the show's popularity while it's still hot. And that's everything. Are you looking forward to Seven Kings? What do you think will happen? Let us know down below, and until next time, we'll see you soon.